Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spotlight on LCA session with your questions and our answers. Really great to have everyone here and such a huge interest in this topic. My name is Maria. I'm from the company eTool. This is an Australian company that provides lifecycle assessment and LCA software. And this session is a bit different, so we'll have a quick introduction about LCA and eTool and how it can be used for infrastructure projects. And then we will have a long session with Q&A so that your questions can be answered today, hopefully. So before we begin, let me introduce our fabulous panel. These people are leading the way. First in a row is Brian Pinkman from the company CPB. Brian is Sustainability Director at CPB, and he has been working on lots of projects in the past in Australia and in the US. In the last 2 years, he's been working on Northeast Link early works. And Brian is also really passionate about sustainability, and he is even volunteering in a non-profit organization, Plastic Oceans Australasia, where he is advising on sustainability matters. Please give him an applause and make him feel welcome. Next is Rebecca Michaelis from Jacobs. She is a sustainability consultant. Rebecca is a very experienced LCA practitioner. She's been working on lots of Green Star projects and currently is working on the project SEPA, which is Southeastern Program Alliance. And Rebecca is also very, very passionate about sustainability, and recently she went on holidays to Queensland and participated in the research project helping to mitigate the effects of climate change on Great Barrier Reef. So please give a big applause. Next in the row is Sandra Valeri. Sandra Valeri is Sustainability Director at Mott MacDonald, and she brings lots of years of experience in the infrastructure projects, and currently GB advising the Suburban Loop Authority in Victoria. Well, 2 years ago, about this time, right? Sandra and I, we met working when she was still working with the ISC, and we worked together on the first draft on the LCA guidelines. She's also very passionate about sustainability and also building her first townhome that will follow principles of passive house. So please give a big applause and make her feel welcome. And last but not least is Jacob Cesaro. Jacob is also from the CPB contractors, and he's our eToolLCD software guru. So if you have any questions, please ask him directly. I'm sure he will tell you different stories than I would tell you. So feel free to do so. All right. Well, before we begin, I would also like to know who is here in front of me, because I can see some familiar faces, but also some new. Let's start this way. Maybe a few people could introduce themselves. How about you? Would you like to give me your name, which company you represent, and then also what brings you here, why you're interested in LCA? Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Kat. Really amazing. That's exactly what LCA does, and it's good for. Thanks for introducing yourself and being brave. All right. What about someone at the back who likes to hide? For example, the gentleman at the back standing and leaning there. Would you like to introduce yourself as well? What is your name? Nice to meet you. Thanks for introducing yourself. It's great. We do have to speak a bit louder here, and this session is going to be really interactive, so I would like you to participate, right? I would like to hear your thoughts. Please raise your hands, those who already know what is LCA. Okay, so we've got very good coverage. Makes my job today a bit easier. Have you heard of eTool? What does eTool do? Please raise your hands. Okay, some people haven't heard of it. Okay, so yeah, eTool provides software, eToolLCD. Well, do you think it's a good software? Okay, do you think it's a good software? Sandra is not sure, so I'm not sure I'm going to invite her to the panel next time. No, we'll find out during Q&As, I'm sure. All right, let's give you a quick introduction about eTool now. I'll give you a little story about how eTool was created. eTool is a small company, but with very, very passionate people. Alex and Richard are the principals and founders of eTool, and they're both engineers and good friends. And about 10 years ago, they had a task. They had to calculate emissions of a single residential home, and they quickly realized that it's going to be very hard. So it's not an easy task, and the reason for it, you just don't know where you start and where you finish. And both of them are really passionate about sustainability. For example, the motivation for Rich was that he went to Canadian ice caps on an expedition and could witness with his own eyes the effects of climate change on ice melting. And it really affected him, and he decided to dedicate his life doing something about it. So this way, eToolLCD software was created. These two people motivate me until today, and they just remind us, think big and really believe in yourself. All right, well, let's think big now. We've got an infrastructure project, and how can we calculate all possible emissions of that project? You can see lots of concrete, you can see a bit of rail, you can see earthworks, you can see maybe some light poles, and so these materials come from somewhere, and they have to be manufactured. So where do we get this information from? So there's a database of the information of the emission factors for each single material. And then next stage, okay, how far do we go? We probably look at 60 or 100 years of operation of this road, and then think what will be ongoing emissions, or called operational emissions. For example, when we use electricity to power these roads, right? Or there will be maintenance and replacements required. So this is called operational carbon, and plus end of life. So when the building or infrastructure project needs to be demolished. So we try to capture all of it, and it's really quite a complex task. As anything complicated, it's also quite simple with right tools and methodologies. So Richard and Alex back then didn't want to reinvent the wheel. They just did the research and realized, well, there is already something that some clever people described, and it's internationally recognized. It's International Standard 15978, and this is our Bible. So at eTool Software, we aligned our software and reporting to this methodology. The good thing is that then it's also compliant to different rating schemes that require a lifecycle assessment, such as Green Star, LEED, BREEAM, a Living Building Challenge, and also ISC. So lots of different purposes it can be used, LCA can be used for. It's really good. And certainly, I really think that that's the only way we can truly build better projects that will benefit our planet and all people on this earth. So now I'll give you a quick intro about eToolLCD software, and also just a quick one. Today I want to just give you as a takeaway two things about eToolLCD to remember, so it's easier. One is that it's a design software, and the second is that it's a collaboration platform. So I'll go into this a bit in the next slides. The first was design software, and as the name states, eToolLCD is lifecycle design, not assessment. So you don't want to be bad guys telling you which project is good or bad, you know. So we're here to help, and we're here to help to provide transparency, flexibility, and robust tool to help you make right decisions about your projects. So one of the first features is that it's a design improvement tool, and LCA usually includes both materials, energy, water, waste, transport emissions, construction, so all different components and different parameters that you can select to drive different design decisions. So the second feature here is data upload. Imagine all this information that you will need to put into the model. So we try to automate that process as much as possible by providing Revit plugin and CSV. So people who know modeling and engineering, they know these files can be quite intense. Jacobs definitely knows, and a few of our panelists. The third feature is lifecycle cost analysis. So this is a very important one because not only we want to drive emissions down, but also whole of life cost, capital expenditure and operational expenditure. We want to get them both down. And so it's also important to have a perspective, environmental versus cost in conjunction with each other. And the third one is my favorite, so it's automated reports. So you just do the modeling and then press the button, and then you can generate a report that's compliant, can go one-to-one for submission. Or how good is that? So you really save lots of time. So that was around software design features. The second takeaway of today was that eToolLCD is a collaboration platform. And collaboration these days, as Ainsley said, is the key. We don't have time to compete. We really have to work together, share our knowledge wisely to get there, to get to net zero before 2050 if possible. So collaboration portal is very important because imagine you are a large organization that has multiple assets, and there are different projects. So let's say it's a metro line, right, with different stations, rail, and so you have to report on your emissions on the basis every year. But also you have to collaborate with your subcontractors and give them guidance. What are the targets? How much carbon they will need to reduce on the way towards net zero? So you need one platform where different external and internal users or collaborators can talk to each other, and where you can also really drive the change. So it's both design tool and collaboration platform for greenhouse gas emissions reporting. And I'll give you two examples of how this is being currently used. HS2 project is high-speed railway in the UK, stage 2. So it's a huge project. It's the biggest project, in fact, in Europe. What I love about this project is that they set a target in 2016 to reduce their emissions by 50% across every single asset. And just recently, they also signed up to a different challenge that is called Net Zero by 2035, and United Nations Race to Zero campaign. So it means that by 2035, they have to be absolutely net zero, not only in operation, but including materials embodied to carbon and so on. So it's a really huge task. So how do they get there? They selected one platform, which is eToolLCD, to collaborate and report on the emissions. So they use it for reduction of CO2, but also to get compliance with BREEAM infrastructure rating that is required for every single station, as well as to collaborate with their subcontractors. So One of those subcontractors is Jacobs in the UK, Rebecca, as far as I know. They already use eTool and provide modeling and HS2. So this way the collaboration works. And the beauty about it, so next time when the next project is similar to the previous one, you can just copy and paste the model and then readjust it, so you don't need to do the remodeling again and again. So you can save your resources, use them wisely, use your time, and even find out some synergies and roll out some great ideas across the whole program to reduce emissions. So that's really a process of continuous improvement in life. And so how do they get to net zero? I'm sure here lots of clever heads that already have their ideas on how to get to net zero by 2035 or 2050. But how they do that? So they set an original target to 50% reduction by 2030. So how they do this first is by building nothing, building less, building clever, and build efficiently. So that's sounds simpler. They still have 8 years to go to drive down to 50%. At the moment, they are about at 25% reduced. But see, the overall emissions include embodied carbon. It includes construction, transport, processes, maintenance of the facility, operational energy. It's huge. It's a huge task. And by 2035, they're trying to implement a few ideas, such as, for example, eliminate diesel completely from construction sites, or 50% reduction in carbon from concrete and steel. So it's a huge pressure on the suppliers as well, and they need time to prepare their processes. So obviously, they communicate to their suppliers and also tell them what they will be required to get there. And then finally, 100% zero carbon energy from day one. And then for that remaining part, they will need to buy offset certificates, which are getting more and more expensive every year as we see it. So if you're interested to learn firsthand how such a huge governmental project goes towards net zero, feel free to join the webinar. Mark Fenton is carbon manager at HS2, and I asked him to provide a special session webinar. I know you're sick of webinars. It's been a long 2 years, but that's the only way we can learn from such an expert. He is in London. It's going to be his 7 a.m. and he's got kids to bring to school. So it's a big favor. So please, even though it's 6 p.m. your time, feel free to join and let me know if you need a link. All right, so the second project that I wanted to showcase is Public Transport Authority in WA. They also use eTool software and LCA methodology and LCC. So they have a sustainability strategy that recognizes the importance of LCA and LCC. And so basically, they require every single project to undertake whole-of-life assessment and cost assessment at early stages of design and planning, and they need to demonstrate reductions. So materials, energy, water use, and so on, so different components there. So that's another example of how it can be used. And so on top of that, PTA and Metronet project also uses this to collaborate with their subcontractors. So they just allow to use a single platform where they can log in and deliver the modeling and provide results. And PTA keeps the intellectual property all on these models and can drive synergies and efficiency.